Owls in the Family, Chapter 4, Part 1. If you notice the Roman numeral sign that I wrote for 4 today, the V means 5, and the 1 comes before the V, so we take away 1 from 5 equals 4. And I put another picture of a great horned owl there, this time with its prey. It looks like a rat. When we spell prey, it's P-R-E-Y. That means something that is captured or eaten. Last time we learned that Billy decided to name the little owl Wool, W-O-L, and he said that was because he remembered the character in Winnie the Pooh, the owl, was named Wool. So I put a couple of pictures here. There's an old-fashioned picture drawing from the original Winnie the Pooh books, and then these are the cartoon drawings. Looks like that. All right, your research question was, why would a wild owl follow 2 human boys? It does not make any sense. And if you watch those 2 videos that I showed you, you figured out that the scientific word was imprint or imprinting. So there's a process that takes place when wild animals are first born, and that is when they see their parents, they understand what they are. A duck sees a mother duck and goes, that's what I look like. I am a duck. I'm going to walk like a duck. I'm going to quack like a duck. And I'm going to do everything that this mama duck shows me to do because that is what I am. So can you imagine this word here, print? We have the word print inside the word imprint. To print a picture in your mind of what you are. That's what young wild animals do. So the video of the little ducklings following the dog who was so annoyed with them, those 2 little ducklings actually think that they look like the dog. And they think that dog is their mother, and that's why they follow it closely everywhere. So if a wild animal becomes orphaned, which means to have no parents, maybe the parents are killed or something happens to them and they do not come back to the nest, those baby animals have no idea what they are or who they are. And if they see another animal, they can actually imprint on that other animal and or human being. So why would a wild owl follow 2 human boys? This wild owl might just be so young and its parents would have been gone for such a long time that it would start to follow another creature and maybe start thinking that it is a human as well. Chapter 4. I woke up early on Sunday morning while everyone else in the house was still asleep. I sneaked downstairs in my pajamas and went out into the backyard to see how Wool was getting along. The grass was still wet with dew and it was cold and slippery under my bare feet. I peeked through the screen of the summer house, but for a while I couldn't see Wool. He had got down off his orange crate and was standing in the shadows on the floor. There wasn't a single gopher in sight, and I had an awful moment as I wondered if he had eaten the lot of them. Then I realized this was silly, for there had been 30 gophers, and he was only one small owl. Wool didn't see me. He seemed fascinated by a pile of old sacks lying in a corner, and as I watched, he made a hop and a skip and jumped up on top of the sacks. Then we both found out where the gophers were. I never saw so many gophers move so fast. They came shooting out from under the sacks like bullets, and they went crazily bouncing from side to side of the summer house, looking for some new place to hide. I guessed what had happened. Wool must have been feeling lonely, and so he decided to make friends with the gophers. But if Wool didn't know anything about gophers, the gophers knew all about owls. When he plopped down among them, they must have run for shelter under those sacks as if the devil himself was after them. Now that Wool had accidentally, or was it on purpose, chased them out into the open again, they went mad. One big fellow came zooming against the wall, bounced off of it, and ran headlong into Wool. Wool jumped, fluffed his feathers, and gave a surprised little hoot. The gopher probably thought his last moment had come, but anyway, he wasn't going to die like a coward, so he bit Wool on the leg. Wool exploded. 1 minute he was on the floor, and the next he was clinging upside down to the screening at the top of the summer house. He was scared to death. I don't think anything in the world could have persuaded him to go back down there among those bouncing, biting gophers. I went into the summer house and untangled Wool from the screening and took him outside. He was so glad to see me that he started to hoot and couldn't stop. It was like hiccups. I couldn't put him back with the gophers, so I tucked him under my arm, tiptoed back into the house, and upstairs to my room. My bedroom was on the 3rd floor, right up under the roof. Nobody ever came up there except me and the maid, whose name was Ophelia. We always called her Offie, who made my bed and tried to dust the room. I knew perfectly well Mother would never allow me to keep Wool in the house, but I was pretty sure that if I could just keep him locked in my room and could hide him under the bed when Offie was due, nobody would know. When I went downstairs for breakfast, about an hour later, I left Wool sitting on the back of a chair, acting quite at home. I thought I closed the bedroom door tight, but the latch must have slipped. Dad and I had breakfast together, but Mother wasn't feeling well that day, so she decided to have hers in bed. After Offie had brought me my porridge, she went into the kitchen and got a breakfast tray ready for Mother. Offie was an odd sort of girl. She used to have queer dreams. She claimed she used to see angels and things in her dreams. Sometimes she saw them when she was supposed to be wide awake. But she was a good cook, and so Dad and Mother never bothered much about the things she claimed she saw. Offie took the breakfast tray and started up the back stairs. These stairs were dark and spooky because there was no window opening on them. About halfway up the stairs, she met Wool on his way down. Offie gave a terrible yell and dropped the tray. Wool, who was still nervous after the trouble with the gophers, let out a hoot and tried to fly. He and Offie arrived at the bottom of the stairs together, all in one flapping lump. After my father got her quieted down, Offie went straight to her room and packed her bags. She marched out of the house without even saying goodbye to Wool and me, and none of us ever saw her again. Dad was unhappy. After breakfast, he called me into his study for a talk. "Billy," he said, "if that owl ever comes into this house again, he goes into the roasting pan. And as for you, you'll get a licking you'll remember for a week." And licking is an old-fashioned word for spanking. But my father never stayed mad long. The very same afternoon, he got out his carpenter's tools, and he and I worked until supper time, making a special cage for Wool. It was a big cage, about 10 feet square, and covered all over with chicken wire. It was built around the stump of a dead tree which stood in the backyard, and on the side of the tree Dad nailed a wooden box as a place where Wool could go to keep dry if it rained. Wool liked the new cage all right. The only trouble was that he got lonely when he was left in it. As long as Murray or Bruce or I was with him, he was perfectly happy. But when there was nobody around, he would sit on the tree stump all hunched up, looking miserable. I tried putting some pigeons in to keep him company, but they were scared of him, and he was nervous of them, so that didn't work. Now, if this chapter could be made into a movie, it would be great because it has so many action scenes. So this is a great one for visualizing today. And so your job today is to draw a picture, and you have a choice of scenes from the chapter. The first great action scene is when the gophers are running everywhere and the gopher bounces off the side of the summer house and eventually crashes into Wool and bites Wool on the leg. So that's a great picture you could draw, the gophers flying everywhere. Number 2, after that happens, Wool freaks out and he ends up hanging from the ceiling in the summer cage. So that would be a great picture to draw as well. And then the third one is when Offie is coming up the stairs and Wool is coming down the stairs, and they end up ending up in a big flapping mess at the bottom of the stairs. So that's a great action scene to draw as well. So you can choose one of those action scenes, and of course lots of details. It should not be a 1-minute picture or a 2-minute picture. It should be at least a 5 to 10 minute picture, and just try to draw the best you can. Don't worry if your owl looks strange. Just try to visualize and draw that picture as best you can.